Hello and welcome to the Bears and Lions podcast. This is the podcast where we challenge our present by viewing our past. I'm a firm believer that our greatest future lies within the correct view of our past, because when you actually look at it correctly, you may see that you place some really strange expectations on yourself and you are disappointed for no reason whatsoever. That's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's conversation. I really enjoyed today's conversation, like a lot. I thought about some of the expectations and some of the way I used to live my life, some of the way I used to treat people. And honestly, it all stemmed from really bad expectations I placed upon myself. So I hope this conversation will challenge you. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side. I remember playing sports with my older brothers growing up. And I have two older brothers, and so I was the smallest and youngest. And naturally, it didn't matter what sport we played, I would most likely get bullied in some way, shape, or form. And it's not like they did it on purpose all the time, but it happened often. And I found myself in my younger teens, like probably 12, 13, 14, I started developing this idea of wanting to be able to compete with them. And as I started growing, I realized, you know what, maybe I can compete a little bit. I was also a late bloomer, so that didn't help me. I was very small for a very long time until later in my teens. I actually had a growth spurt, and I was very thankful for it. But I started developing these expectations of myself where I just wanted to prove them wrong. I just wanted to prove that I could play with them. And it drove me to get better at sports. So as a young kid, I was playing with my brothers in the backyard, but then whenever I'd go out to play organized sports, I was playing with people my age. And they weren't all used to playing with bigger people. I was. It made me a little bit more aggressive in basketball. It made me a lot more aggressive in wanting to play sports like football and things like that. And what I learned is it although it helped get me motivated to do things, it hurt me in the long run. And here's how. As I started with the expectation of, I'm just going to prove them wrong, I got to this point where really my only expectations of anybody around me didn't just deal with my friend and like my family or my brothers or siblings. It dealt with everybody, my parents, my friends. I needed people to disagree with me in some way, shape, or form, so I had fuel to actually prove them wrong. Anytime people agreed with me, I was like, great, whatever. That's cool. That's right. I'm awesome. But there was this identity that got wrapped up in who I was. And honestly, it just started really impacting myself and my friends around me, because all of a sudden, it didn't matter how many good people I had around me. I would find ways to disagree with them, and I would find ways to get them to disagree with me so I could say, watch me. I'll prove you wrong. It's that mentality, and you hear it in social media all the time. I see posts on it all the time. Tell me I can't, and I'll show you that I can. It's a great t-shirt. It's a great message to get you pumped up in the moment. It's a good motivator. However, if that is your identity in your life, if that is the only expectations that you have upon yourself and the people around you, you will find yourself very, very alone. And I say this out of personal experience, because my late teens and early 20s, there were only a very select few people who could actually stand being around me. I'm very thankful for a couple of my friends. You know who you are if you listen to the podcast. There is a small group of people from the time I was in my late teens to early 20s that actually could be around me. And I even look back at some of the things. I was so arrogant, and it was like I picked fights for no reason because I needed to prove somebody wrong. I needed to prove anybody wrong. So what I learned was that building your drive for your future or your passion, building your drive based off of proving something to someone, it can be a great motivator to get you started. but it can also cause you to lose yourself to everyone else's criticism. So if somebody tells you, you know what, I think you're wrong, that all of a sudden goes off in your brain and says, cool, I can prove that I'm right. Problem is you are wrong sometimes. I had to learn the hard way. Sometimes people just offer advice and hard criticism and say, you're actually wrong in this, because they don't want you to screw up. They don't want you to hurt. And I have a group of friends that actually, a very small group of friends during that time, that would listen to me and they'd say, I think you're wrong, but I still care about you. And I'd say, I'll prove to you. Let me show you. And what I found was, oh crap, I was wrong. And I spent years of my life pursuing this other endeavor to show them I can do this. And that was never the process. It was never the issue. It was just the wrong pursuit for me. And that's what they were trying to convey is, hey, you expect so much here and in your life. I think you're wrong. I think your expectations are wrong. And I'll prove you wrong. I'll show you. And what I found was, they were absolutely 100% right. So the great expectations and the whole process of this conversation is around the mentality of what expectations are you setting for yourself? What expectations have people, are you placing on other people? Hey, I expect you to do this, or I expect myself to do this, or I expect things to happen. If I do this, then this will happen. But real life shows us that if I do this, it may happen a lot of the times, but there is a probability that in some cases it's not going to happen. So if I ask a girl out, I'm going to go on a date, right? No. Sometimes it's if I ask a girl out, she's going to say no. So my expectation, if I expect every girl I ask out to say yes, my expectations may be a little flawed, and I need somebody to say, you're wrong in that. And then I'm going to say, let me show you. I'm only going to find out the truth is the fact that I could probably ask out right now 5 different girls, and I would say 4 of them are going to say no, with a probability of the 5th that's going to be like, I just want to be friends. That's just me personally that has had that experience. But I think it's a good conversation to have with expectations, is we have these grandiose expectations that it's going to be like incredible. Life is going to be incredible. Our dreams are going to be incredible. Everything is going to work out. We're going to reach our wildest dreams. We're going to make a lot of money. We're going to marry our dream girl or dream guy. We're going to get our dream house with our dream family and our dream dog and our dream car. But the expectations of that are often skewed. For instance, if you currently work in a job where you are making, let's just say $50,000 a year, is it your expectation that if you do that for 10 years, that you're going to be able to afford your dream job or your dream car or your dream house? Now, you may be able to gain the skills at your job, but you may need to leave that job in order to pick up new skills to get a new job to help you afford your dream job, your dream car, your dream house. I say your dream job because I do think that there are, although you don't pay for your job necessarily, you pay in skills over the years to earn your dream job or to get your dream job. So there is an aspect of that. You have to really start thinking about your expectations of your future and whether or not they're realistic. Because I think some people will assume that they're just going to step up and make the shot. They're going to take it. If you got one shot, one opportunity, are you going to take it or let it slip, right? Eminem. But that's just not realistic. I've learned through years, literally decades. I'm about to be 35, and I've learned that, you know what? There are so many expectations that I put on myself that are unrealistic and stupid. It's just stupid. It's not realistic. And it's a good motivator. It's a good reason to wake up and say, yeah, I'm going to do it. Today's going to be a good day. But the reality is that if you're in the same job and you're not learning the skills or not utilizing the skills or not utilizing the networking and not finding a way to move forward, your expectations of having something just happen they get lower and lower and lower the less you do on that, and the more time that goes by and you're not taking advantage of that. Hey everybody, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you want to connect with me further, you can find me on my social media. I'm most active on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, at Kyle Vaught. That's KYLEV as in Victor ATT. But I'm also trying to become a little bit more active on Instagram and Threads, which is at Kyle_Vaught. So shoot me a follow, shoot me a message, say hi, or maybe there's a topic that you want me to discuss on a future podcast episode. Either way, I cannot wait to get connected. Now let's get back to the conversation. I know some people that they're in a good job making the money that they make, and their dream is to make the money that they make and to live in the house that they live. And that is awesome because their expectations match their reality. They've met those and it's great. But I know other people who they work a good job and they have a good house and a good work-life balance, and their expectation is that one day they're going to do the same thing, but one day it's going to be for millions of dollars, which I don't see how that's true, because all of the millionaires that I know of have worked pretty darn hard to get there, and we don't always see that behind the scenes footage of what they had to go through. So they may have worked that same job, but then at night they went to school. And while they went to school, they also had to deal with whatever they were going through. Maybe they had kids, maybe they had a divorce, whatever it was. And if you're wanting that, that's great. But just make sure that your expectations are realistic to what you can actually do or what you're actually doing in life. And maybe this is a reality check. Maybe you're saying, oh, but I do want that. Okay, are you going to school at night? Are you doing the things that you need to do? And I'm not saying school is a necessary thing, but are you utilizing the networking that you have? Are you building a platform? Are you building your personal brand so that when you go and pursue that next step, you have an outlet to do it? I myself spent years saying, yes, this is the expectation I have. Here's a personal example of me. I went to school for sports broadcasting. I expected to be on ESPN at this point in my life. I expected to at least be covering sports by now in my 30s. And then in my 40s, I expected to have an opportunity to maybe work my way up the chain and be somebody that you see on a national level or here on a national level, but that's just not realistic. COVID happened, sports shut down. I didn't pursue it further, and it's on me, but my expectation was like I was going to go to school and this was going to happen. But after school, my grandfather passed away. That was unforeseen. I knew I needed to spend some more time with my family. So I moved back in with my family because I knew if I did move in work in sports, there no weekends on sports. Weekends were when you're most busy most of the time. There's no holidays on sports. They play basketball games on Christmas. They play football games on Thanksgiving. You don't have those times to see family necessarily. I knew this. This was realistic to me. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to spend some time with my family before I go pursue this. Then COVID shut everything down. And I realized, you know what? Maybe I don't want to do that just yet in my life because it's really unknown what would happen. And I watched a lot of people who I knew that were really good dig in during COVID and really focus. There's a guy named Jeremy Fitch who I love his persistence. I would love to have him on the podcast at some point, but Jeremy just was so persistent and dug in when COVID happened. And now he works with the NBA. That's what he does. Another guy named Denton Day. He's a local here in the DMV area. I'd love to sit down with him on the podcast as well, Denton. So I know both of them have come on podcasts and I went to school with them, so it'd be great to have them. But Denton is another one who just dug into radio. And we're talking 4 years in radio and he just did what he needed to do. I remember when he was working in a little town called Bedford, Virginia, and he just did a podcast on the side, and he focused and he grew his brand and he put all the work in. And so his expectation was to be national one day, but he put in all the work and he did everything he needed to do. And now that expectation is a reality. But for me, my expectation of doing that when I wasn't doing any of that activity is ridiculous. It's completely out the wazoo. Like, I should not have that expectation because that's not going to happen. I'm not going to step up. If I get an opportunity tomorrow to be on the radio, I'm sure I would do well, but it's not going to be life-changing because I haven't set everything up for it. And it's not what I'm pursuing. That's just a little bit about me. I share that because if you've ever seen like the clip of like a hole-in-one that wins a car or a half-court shot, right? You expect somebody to go out there and you want them to make it. The reason why they put those prizes is the expectation is so low. The probability of that happening is so low that they will put, if you make this half-court shot, here's $5,000. If you make this hole-in-one, it's a free car. The expectation is so low because it's so impossible or improbable, I should say, to reach that. And then when they make it, everybody goes crazy because it's super exciting. So I just want to say, if you have really bad expectations, if everybody expected everybody to make a hole-in-one, nobody would put a car on the line. Nobody would put $5,000. If everybody makes a half-court shot, if it's that simple, then the expectation is if we have a half-court shot, we'll give you a free Chick-fil-A sandwich or something like that. But that's not the way that it is, right? So if you have bad expectations and you assume that, oh, well, I'm going to do this because everybody does this. But the reality is not a lot of people do it. If you think that you're going to do it, it's going to end up hurting you because it's a lot harder than you expect. And that expectation will impact you. And I think a lot of people walk around disappointed because they don't hit that 1 in a million shot the first try or the second try or the third try. And it's not realistic. You can't expect yourself to be Steph Curry if you've never even played basketball, or if you played Little League basketball at one point, or maybe you played a little bit in middle school. You just can't expect that. It's the people who drive and focus and say, this is what I need to do, and this is the reality of my expectations today are good. This is what I need to accomplish. I expect myself to wake up, work out, and do this, and then whatever else I need to do is great. And then one day I can reach that. But the expectations change so quickly. Having a real conversation with you on what your great expectations are so valuable. It's so valuable to have those conversations. I do it often with myself. I shared a little bit of last episode. Things were not the best through March. But it's a good reality check of being able to say, you know what, maybe my expectations were too high on me and I need to dial it back and come back to reality so that I can be realistic and connect with you guys. I talk about connections and great expectations. If you did not know from the title, and if you don't know, it's actually a book. It's written by Charles Dickens, Sir Charles Dickens. It was published in 1861. It's a literary piece of art, essentially. And a lot of Dickens' writings are just incredible. But it's this great story, and there's a ton of characters in this story that help everybody in every aspect of life connect with. And it's something that I think is beautiful, where everybody can say, you know what, maybe that's how I can connect here. Is you can learn so many lessons. So I pulled a little bit from the book, and here's just a line from the book to help you out. And I want you to just listen to these words and tell me what comes to mind for yourself. Heaven knows we need never be ashamed of our tears, for they are rain upon the blinding dust of earth, overlying our hearts. I was better after I had cried than before, more sorry, more aware of my own ingratitude, more gentle. You see, we often set so many unreachable expectations on ourselves in hopes that we'll be more one day, right? We expect high expectations for ourselves because we want to be a high valuable person. But the truth is that we really must view ourselves correctly and see that not all expectations should be met. Not all expectations will be met. Not all dreams are going to lead to the ending that we want. And it's okay to cry over that. But that's not the end. It's okay that we don't reach our wildest dreams. I've had to face the fact that I may at some point in my life pursue sports broadcasting again. But I'm okay. I'm okay that I'm not doing it right now. I'm okay that it's not something in my next 5 years or foreseeable future, because I love my job. And I love that all the skills I gained from pursuing sports broadcasting have translated into what I'm doing now. And it's fulfilling. I get to help people in ways that I didn't know this was a profession. It's something where I get to talk to people in a way that I didn't know was a profession. I get to do this podcast with y'all. I mean, I love sports and I would love to do a sports podcast at some point, but I don't have the time. And I love doing this podcast because there are some people who don't like sports and there are some people who do. But I can talk to both of you in this podcast. And I hope that I'll inspire you to ask good questions, challenge yourself, challenge your present, view your past through a different lens, and step into your future with a ferocity and a joy. Because that is what we're all trying to do on this rock we call planet Earth. I'm really thankful for the opportunity to sit here and have a conversation with you. But it's because my expectations have changed from what they once were. I don't need to prove anybody wrong. I don't need you to tell me I can't. I know what I'm capable of because I've lived long enough and I've done it enough where I know, you know what? There are some things that I bet I can do, but it would be healthier if I did. And I'm okay with people disagreeing with me. I don't have to prove them wrong. I don't have to prove myself right. I think I'm wrong often. And I'm okay with that because not everybody is going to see it eye to eye. But I think this world needs a little bit more grace, a little bit more grace-filled people who are going to be okay with that. Not try to make it into a big deal, not try to get you to disagree, but they're just going to simply say, that's actually really cool. I'm really thankful for the friends that stuck around when I was very disagreeable. I'm very thankful for that opportunity to be able to go back and apologize and say, you know what? I was really tough. How did you stick around? I've had some conversations, and those people have told me it wasn't easy, but I'm glad they did. That's going to do it for this conversation. Thank you so much for listening. If anything, I hope this challenges you to ask yourself, what are your expectations in life currently, and what are your expectations in the future, and what are you doing today to reach those expectations and make them a reality? For everybody else, I do hope that you will have a fantastic week. For everybody else, remember to give grace, show love, and as always, stay stellar. Peace.